From a 37-year-old loser to an insane aura farming god, these are all 10 of Rimuru's forms in Tensura. And let's start with his human form. At the start of the show, Satoru Mikami is just your typical Japanese guy. There's literally nothing interesting about him. However, this all changes when he gets stabbed by a random robber and ends up being reincarnated into a fantasy world called the Cardinal World, slime form. After being reincarnated as a slime, Satoru gains quite a few overpowered abilities. You see, in the Tensura world, whenever an individual is reincarnated, the voice of the world grants them a unique skill if they are lucky. However, Satoru ends up gaining not only one, but two incredibly strong unique skills. The first one is Great Sage, which is basically an AI assistant that can help Satoru with many different things. For example, it can help him learn different skills and also merge similar skills together into more advanced skills. The other skill he got is called Predator, which allows him to consume anything and analyze it to gain their powers and skills. This basically gives its user a chance to get unlimited skills as long as they keep devouring more and more enemies. Now, even with these two insane abilities, Satoru is still pretty weak since, well, he's still just a regular slime. However, this all changes quickly when Satoru meets one of the true dragons, 𝐿𝐷𝐴𝐴, who is trapped in the Infinity Prison. True dragons are basically the strongest beings in existence, and everyone in this new world fears them. Another important thing to mention is that in the Cardinal World, most monsters are born without names. Being named is actually a big deal in this world, as it can make you much stronger depending on how much magic energy the person giving the name puts into it. Back to the story. Satoru soon learns that 𝐿𝐷𝐴𝐴 has been stuck in this cave for hundreds of years, desperately seeking company. He and Satoru quickly become best friends. They both share their pasts with each other, and after bonding, 𝐿𝐷𝐴𝐴 decides to name his new friend Rimuru, and Rimuru gives them the surname Tempest. There are still 8 insane forms left to cover, and let's continue with named slime. After gaining a name, Rimuru evolves into a higher being. These changes are not immediately apparent, but his magicule level increases exponentially. After being named, Rimuru wants to free his new friend and asks Great Sage if he can eat the Infinity Prison that has trapped 𝐿𝐷𝐴𝐴. Unfortunately, Great Sage informs Rimuru that he is too weak, and his Predator skill will take around 100 years to completely digest the Infinity Prison. Still, 𝐿𝐷𝐴𝐴 accepts this, and it's better than just staying stuck in this cave forever. So, in he goes into Rimuru's endless stomach. After absorbing one of the true dragons, Rimuru gets a massive buff to his magicule capacity. And since 𝐿𝐷𝐴𝐴 is no longer there to talk to him, Rimuru becomes bored and starts roaming around the cave to find an exit. During this period, he finds a lot of monsters, and after killing and consuming them, Rimuru gains a lot of skills like Steel Threads, Poisonous Breath, and Scale Armor. Rimuru also learns that after consuming a monster, he can transform into them anytime. So after 3 whole weeks, Rimuru finally finds an exit and basks in the warm sunlight for the first time in so long. In the forest outside, which used to be the territory of 𝐿𝐷𝐴𝐴, Rimuru meets a bunch of goblins who are under constant attacks from the dire wolves. You see, before, they didn't have this problem, as 𝐿𝐷𝐴𝐴's aura kept all the monsters confined to their own territories. Rimuru starts feeling guilty because he was the one who made 𝐿𝐷𝐴𝐴 disappear, so he decides to help them by taking them in as his subordinates. After defeating the direwolf leader, the other direwolves choose to submit to Rimuru as well, and thus he gains another race under his command. But there's a small problem. None of these monsters have any names, which makes it hard for Rimuru to address them properly. So what does he do to fix this problem? He starts naming all of them. As I already mentioned, it takes a lot of magicules to name a monster in the Tensura world, and it also increases depending on the monster's strength. So after naming a bunch of monsters, Rimuru is forced into a coma for a whole 3 days to recover completely. After he wakes up, he finds that all the goblins have evolved into hobgoblins, while the direwolves evolved into star tempest wolves. With so many subordinates, Rimuru feels the need to make a town where all the species can live in harmony. But not everyone wants to live in harmony, which leads to Rimuru's next form, Shizu human form. You see, the disappearance of 𝐿𝐷𝐴𝐴 is a big problem for a lot of nearby human factions. So, in order to investigate what's going on, these factions send their own secret agents inside the 𝐿 forest. One such party is a trio of adventurers from a kingdom called Blumend. During their journey, a mysterious woman with a mask joins them and introduces herself as 𝐿𝐸. 𝐿𝐸 eventually meets Rimuru and learns that he is also originally from Japan, just like her. Rimuru learns from 𝐿𝐸 that she was summoned to this world by Demon Lord Leon and would have died if not for him fusing a fire spirit, 𝐸frit, into her body. Although this saved her from dying, it also brought a lot of pain to her. 𝐿𝐸 has grown weak over the years, so her control over 𝐸frit has also loosened a lot. This eventually causes 𝐸frit to possess her body and wreak havoc upon Rimuru's newly built town. Fortunately, Rimuru is able to stop 𝐸frit by consuming it with his predator skill. However, this also results in 𝐿𝐸 losing the only thing that was keeping her alive, so she passes away peacefully in Rimuru's arms. Before passing away, she requests that Rimuru consume her so that her body doesn't become one with this world. Rimuru accepts her request. And after consuming a human, he finally gains the ability to transform into a human form. Once transformed, Rimuru looks a lot like 𝐿𝐸 did, but way younger, with blue hair and golden eyes. After transforming into a human, Rimuru checks his stats and sees a lot of new things. First, his magical capacity grows considerably as he consumed both 𝐸frit and 𝐿𝐸, who were both very strong individuals. Secondly, he gains a lot of new skills, including the unique skill Degenerate. Degenerate has two sub-skills, synthesis and separation. Synthesis is basically the ability to create something by merging two different things. It can be two objects or even two skills to create an entirely new skill. On the other hand, separation gives Rimuru the ability to split anything from the body of any living being he touches. For example, if any of Rimuru's subordinates are inflicted with toxins, he can just separate the toxins from their body. Aside from this skill, Rimuru also gains all the abilities and skills of 𝐸frit, such as its resistance to fire magic and the skill Flare Circle. Rimuru can also summon 𝐸frit at any time while he chills around in his endless stomach. Now, even though all these skills are great, the best part about Rimuru's human form is that he can travel to human towns much more easily since people wouldn't fear him for being a monster. So, Rimuru utilizes his human form to build relationships all around the world, which brings immense fortune to his nation. However, this eventually draws Rimuru into the plans of more powerful beings who also want control over the 𝐿𝐸 forest. Their actions disrupt the forest's natural balance, forcing many races to leave their homes. One such race is the ogres, who are annihilated by an army of starving orcs, with only a few of their members fleeing toward Rimuru's village. After Rimuru senses their presence, he heads to meet them, but things quickly turn hostile. Rimuru then beats up all 6 of the ogres relatively easily, which results in them submitting to him. After being named, all 6 ogres transform into �KIJin and become valuable subordinates to Rimuru. Demon Lord Seed Rimuru. Rimuru soon learns from the �KIJin about the Orc Lord army, which has recently invaded the 𝐿𝐸 forest and is consuming everything in their way. He also learns that a sorcerer with a mask, similar to Rimuru, is behind the aggression of the orc army as he was spotted in their tribe. Rimuru hears similar news from other monster tribes and decides to step in himself to stop the Orc Lord from completely destroying the forest. So he sends out the strongest of his subordinates to fight the orc army while he himself takes on the Orc Lord. The Orc Lord is strong, but against a monster like Rimuru, he stands no chance. So to defeat Rimuru, the Orc Lord consumes some of his strongest subordinates along with 𝐿𝐸, the person who orchestrated this entire war. After filling his stomach, the Orc Lord becomes an orc disaster and his strength grows exponentially. The fight between Orc Disaster and Rimuru then starts, and it is pretty much a competition to see who can eat the other one first. In the end, Rimuru comes out on top and successfully eats Orc Disaster with Predator, gaining all of his magicules and skills. Now, Rimuru was always crazy strong, but after eating 𝐸frit, 𝐿𝐸, and now Orc Disaster, Rimuru gains enough magicules to become a Demon Lord Seed, which qualifies him to become a true Demon Lord later down the line. Anyway, aside from becoming a Demon Lord Seed, Rimuru also receives the Orc Disaster's unique skill, Starved, which has a lot of interesting sub-skills. One of its sub-skills is Food Chain, which allows the user to grant any skill that they own to their subordinates or take any skill that their subordinates own for themselves. Starved can also consume things similar to Predator, which is why the Orc Lord army was so strong. Since Starved works similarly to Predator, Rimuru is able to merge these two skills to gain a much stronger skill, Gluttony. And guys, this one is overpowered. Firstly, one of the sub-skills of Predator, Analysis, is moved to 𝐿𝐵𝐴, who can now directly analyze things, which makes her even more powerful. Furthermore, the improved Gluttony skill removes the side effects of the food chain, which means that Rimuru and his subordinates can enjoy each other's skills without losing any of them in the process. This also makes Rimuru's decision to name all of his subordinates a genius move, as their strength now becomes Rimuru's strength. Aside from the personal buffs, Rimuru also gains the whole Orc army as his subordinates, who prove to be very useful as a workforce to build roads and houses for his growing town. However, all of this came at a cost. You see, Rimuru was never supposed to interfere with the Orc disaster, as 𝐿𝐵𝐴, the person who was controlling everything from the shadows, was just another puppet of an even stronger character, Demon Lord Clayman. As one of the 10 Demon Lords, Clayman holds great authority in the world. Clayman wanted to make the Orc disaster as strong as possible so that he would have a strong subordinate on his side, but he didn't expect a child slime monster to ruin his plans. So, to take his revenge, Clayman starts manipulating other Demon Lords into going after Rimuru, claiming that he's destroying their image by creating a nation of monsters. However, his plan fails terribly, as 𝐿𝐵𝐴, one of the Demon Lords, becomes Rimuru's best friend. During this time, Rimuru also defeats 𝐿𝐵𝐴, a Calamity class monster, and consumes its core. He gains more useful abilities because of this, such as gravity manipulation and magic nullification. After resolving all these problems while also gaining a reliable friend like 𝐿𝐵𝐴, Rimuru decides to take some time off and leaves the town to complete Shizu's final request, which was to take care of her students. But this journey wouldn't go as planned, as this is where Rimuru will meet his first real opponent, who will force him to unleash his strongest form yet, Chimera form. According to Shizu's memories, there is an academy in the capital city of the 𝐿𝐵𝐴 Kingdom where she used to teach kids who were summoned from Earth. At the academy, Rimuru meets Yuki and quickly becomes good friends with him. Yuki then takes Rimuru to meet the kids Shizu used to teach. The thing is, these kids don't have much longer to live due to a magic illness that summoned kids have. However, Rimuru knows that Shizu was also a summoned child, but she survived and lived close to 80 years thanks to the fire spirit 𝐸𝐵𝐴. So, in order to cure them, Rimuru takes the kids to the dwelling of the spirits, where he meets the Queen of Spirits, Ramaris. Rimuru tells her about his goal to save the children, and Ramaris agrees to help after Rimuru defeats her magic puppet. In the process, Rimuru also becomes friends with Ramaris after creating her a new, much better puppet. He then proceeds to save the children by fusing some of the superior spirits into their bodies. But not all kids require his attention, as some are able to summon superior spirits on their own, 𝐿𝐵𝐴 being one of them, who summons the time spirit, whom even the Queen of Spirits feels wary of. After confirming that the children won't be dying, Rimuru leaves the kingdom, but is soon ambushed by Hinata Sakaguchi, one of the 10 saints of the Western Holy Church. As an otherworlder, Hinata knew Shizu and deeply respected her. However, she was manipulated into believing that Rimuru killed her, which is why she is now here to take revenge. Now, one thing you need to remember is that ever since Rimuru was reincarnated into this world, his journey has been very smooth, and he pretty much never suffered a setback. Well, that all changed during this fight, as Hinata absolutely destroys Rimuru, forcing him to go all out and unleash his gluttony skill to its maximum. This is where we see Rimuru's next form, a chimera monster that's made up of all the enemies that he has killed and eaten ever since he came to this world. This form is so ridiculously strong that even Hinata is forced to bring out the strongest holy magic in her arsenal. So she channels all of her holy magic into the spell Disintegration, which can literally disintegrate her enemies into atoms. The only reason Rimuru manages to survive this is because he quickly makes a clone of himself while his real body hides in the grass, masking his presence. Fortunately for him, after Hinata kills the clone, she leaves immediately, thinking that Rimuru is actually dead. Rimuru then comes out of hiding and tries to contact his subordinates, but gets no response. This makes him extremely worried, so he teleports to a location near the town where he learns that his nation was attacked by the human kingdom of Falmouth and the Holy Western Church. Rimuru soon arrives at the town and finds that it's covered in anti-magic and anti-monster barriers. He forcefully heads inside the barrier and is terrified to learn that many of his friends, like Xion and 𝐿𝐵𝐲, have already been killed. Enraged, Rimuru heads out to destroy the entire 𝐿𝐵𝐴𝐵 kingdom, but is stopped by Eren and the other two adventurers, who reveal themselves to be elves. Eren then informs Rimuru that there is a way to revive Xion and the other monsters, but it will require him to evolve into a true demon lord. And as you probably guessed, this leads us to Rimuru's next form. True demon lord and a demon slime. So, in order to awaken as a true demon lord, Rimuru has to undergo something called the Harvest Festival. Essentially, what Rimuru has to do is acquire 10,000 human souls. Luckily, he doesn't have to search far, since the soldiers of the 𝐿𝐵𝐴𝐵 kingdom are still marching toward the town to kill the rest of his monster friends. Rimuru doesn't waste any time and immediately teleports to the 𝐿𝐵𝐴𝐵 army's camp, where 20,000 soldiers are resting for the battle. From up in the air, Rimuru uses a special spell, Fury of the Gods, to create tiny spheres of water that can reflect highly concentrated light to pierce through his enemies. After killing close to 10,000 soldiers, Rimuru gains a new unique skill, Merciless, which gives him the ability to insta-kill anyone who loses the will to fight. Using Merciless, Rimuru easily finishes off the remaining soldiers, as they are too scared of him at this point. With all the necessary souls gathered, the Harvest Festival is completed, and Rimuru falls into a deep sleep to complete his transformation. But before that, he sacrifices all 20,000 corpses to summon 3 archdemons to help him with things moving forward. Rimuru's evolution into a true demon lord brings a lot of positive changes to his stats. First, he is transformed from a monster slime into a demon slime. This evolves all of his previous resistances and elemental skills, making Rimuru immune to all damage types, whether it be physical, magical, or even holy, which was one of the reasons why he lost to Hinata in the first place. However, the biggest changes to Rimuru's stats are his unique skills, which evolve into ultimate skills after consuming each other. Great Sage consumes Degenerate to evolve into the ultimate skill, Wisdom King Raphael. Meanwhile, the Gluttony skill consumes Merciless to evolve into the ultimate skill, the King of Gluttony, 𝐵𝐿𝐵𝐴𝐵. And guys, let me tell you, these two are absolutely insane. Raphael is basically an upgraded version of Great Sage, but far more powerful. She is now truly autonomous and can take over Rimuru's body to make critical decisions if he ever falls unconscious. In fact, after Rimuru's evolution into a true demon lord, he still remains unconscious for 3 days. So during this time, Raphael takes over his body and uses resurrection magic to revive all the dead monsters that died in the war. Compared to Great Sage, Raphael now holds authority over all the knowledge in the world, which allows her to teach Rimuru any skill that he wants as long as his body is able to use it. As for 𝐵𝐿𝐵𝐴𝐵, this ultimate skill is similar to Gluttony, but now it has no limits. Before this evolution, Rimuru had to be within a certain range to consume things, but now 𝐵𝐿𝐵𝐴𝐵 can even go across space and time to directly consume the heart core of any living thing. Oh, and also, using 𝐵𝐿𝐵𝐴𝐵, Rimuru is able to finally free Veldora from the Infinity Prison by consuming it. Consuming the Infinity Prison also gives Rimuru another ultimate skill, Lord of Oath's 𝐷𝐸, which is a skill that has absolute defense and allows Rimuru to negate any damage related to the governing laws of the universe. 𝐷𝐸 also has a belief system that makes Rimuru continuously grow stronger as long as more people believe in him. One important thing to mention is that Lord of Oath's 𝐷𝐸 and Wisdom King Raphael are what are considered angelic skills. There are only 14 of those in the whole cardinal world, and even some of the strongest characters in the series don't have one. Yet Rimuru has 2, which just tells you how broken he is at this point. But believe it or not, freeing Veldora also gives Rimuru another ultimate skill, Storm Dragon Veldora. This skill allows Rimuru to summon the Storm Dragon Veldora anytime, anywhere in the world. So remember those 3 archdemons Rimuru summoned earlier? Well, 2 of them become sacrifices to revive all of Rimuru's subordinates, while the last one is named Diablo by Rimuru. Even before being named, Diablo was already a primordial demon, one of only 7 in the whole world. One of these primordial demons is actually the strongest demon lord in the world, 𝐿𝐵𝐴𝐵. So just imagine how beneficial it is for Rimuru to have a powerful subordinate like this under his command. Anyway, after waking up, Rimuru decides to settle some things, such as Demon Lord Clayman, who was the reason behind all of the deaths of his subordinates. At the same time, Rimuru receives an invitation to the Demon Lord banquet, where all 10 Demon Lords are present to see if Rimuru is qualified to proclaim himself as a true Demon Lord. The banquet is initiated by Clayman, who now has Milim under his control. He then sends Milim and Frey to kill Carrion, another Demon Lord, and the two deal with him easily. However, things soon start to collapse for Clayman. This is because Rimuru soon exposes his fraudulent nature to the world, and even Clayman's entire demonic army is defeated by Rimuru's subordinates. Clayman tries to control the situation by ordering Milim to attack Rimuru, but Milim refuses to do so, as she was never really under his control in the first place. Clayman is furious and looks toward Frey, who just smiles and tells him she never intended to help. Just then, Carrion also reveals himself to be alive. Clayman loses his mind after realizing that he was toyed with by all of these Demon Lords from the very start, but it's too late now, and Rimuru slimes him and eats his body soon after. So the main villain is now defeated, right? Well, not quite. You see, during this time, it is also revealed that Clayman was not the mastermind and that he was being controlled by Yuki, the Grand Master of the Free Union Guild. Yuki, however, isn't alone in his schemes, as he is supported by the Eastern merchants, who are also the ones who gave false information about Shizu to Hinata so that she would attack Rimuru. This time though, they decide to go all out and once again send the entire Western Holy Church against Rimuru. This eventually leads to a rematch between Rimuru and Hinata, where Rimuru defeats Hinata fair and square. He does this by sacrificing his ultimate skill, 𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐴𝐵, to gain enough power to absorb Hinata's final attack, Melt Slash. But then, the 7 clergy of the Western Holy Church reveal themselves and actually kill Hinata so that they can frame Rimuru as a true villain. However, this doesn't go well for them, as their goddess, Luminous, who is also one of the true Demon Lords, soon appears. Luminous slays all of the clergy, and to apologize for the incompetence of her subordinates, she also makes a holy pact with Rimuru, which allows him and his subordinates to freely control holy magic, removing their final and only weakness. There are only 3 forms left to cover, and this next one is where Rimuru's strength reaches godlike levels. True Dragon Rimuru and Ultimate Slime. Okay, maybe saying Rimuru has absolutely no weakness at all anymore was a bit of a stretch. Rimuru still has 2 massive weaknesses, one of which will soon come to haunt him. You see, the loss of the 7 clergy is a big deal to the Eastern merchants, who decide to go all out this time. So they target Veldora and his sister Velgrund, the Scorch Dragon, and successfully take control of them. Moreover, Rimuru's subordinates are also trapped in a special dimension, so Rimuru has no choice but to defeat Veldora and his sister and free both of them. But as you can imagine, defeating true dragons isn't easy, especially when there are 2 of them. Now, the true dragons have existed since the dawn of creation. They are born from the fundamental laws of the universe, which is why they don't even need ultimate skills. Aside from that, in the Tensura universe, all living beings are categorized by existence points. As a true demon lord, Rimuru at most only has 5 million existence points, while the true dragons can easily reach upward of 100 million. With such a huge power gap, even the all-knowing Raphael starts to doubt herself. This breaks Rimuru's spirit, who has always relied on Raphael throughout his whole journey as a slime. This feeling of helplessness causes Rimuru to try something crazy. So, to make Raphael stronger, he decides to name her, giving her the name Ciel. This causes Raphael to undergo an immense evolution where she develops a soul and ego of her own. This evolution also allows her to freely control infants, which are basically particles that make up the basic fabric of time and space. After evolving into Ciel, the 2-on-1 fight becomes 2-on-2, as Ciel is a being of her own who can assist Rimuru much better than Raphael could. Ciel's evolution also allows Rimuru to accelerate his thoughts up to hundreds of millions of times, so he can basically see the future before it even happens. However, even with all these crazy new abilities, Rimuru still can't defeat the 2 true dragons, as his existence points are nowhere close to theirs. So, Ciel comes up with a solution. She proposes turning Rimuru into a true dragon, as he already possesses all the necessary requirements from when he consumed Veldora in the Infinity Prison. 𝐶L is then able to create a blueprint by manipulating infants, which rewrites Rimuru's existence and turns him into an ultimate slime, Rimuru's version of a true dragon. This brings Rimuru to the level of the other true dragons, with his existence points being on par with 𝐕eldora and his sister. From there, 𝐶L copies the Scorched Dragon skills and also enhances them to a completely new level. After defeating Velgrund, Rimuru consumes her, which grants him the authority of yet another true dragon. Similar to his skill 𝐕eldora, Rimuru can now also summon Velgrund anytime and use her in combat. Now, although these new powers seem cool, as it turns out, having too many ultimate skills isn't good for a user because their soul is only meant to contain 1 or 2 at best. And just so you know, Rimuru was holding at least 5 at this point. So, to solve this problem, 𝐶L uses the ultimate skill Uriel as the base and combines it with the ultimate skill Velgrund and a few others to create a brand new ultimate skill, 𝐿𝐵𝐺𝐻𝐵𝐺. This one allows Rimuru to store all of his skills as data so that he can reduce the negative effects of having too many skills. Besides this, Rimuru encounters another problem. Basically, using ultimate skills individually is a bit slow and inefficient. So, 𝐶L merges Beelzebub and Raphael with the 2 true dragon ultimate skills, which results in the creation of Rimuru's strongest ultimate skill, Void God Azathoth. Azathoth is an attack type skill that allows Rimuru to use many of his other skills, but on a far grander scale. For example, previously, Beelzebub could consume a soul from the other end of the world, but now Rimuru can use Azathoth to consume a soul in a whole separate universe. On top of this, Rimuru's infinity space transforms into an imaginary space, which is an endless dimension where Rimuru is the one and only ruler, and no one can overwrite his skills. At this point, Rimuru is already close to the level of the gods, as only the true creator of the Tensura world, 𝐕eldonava, is supposed to have access to skills this powerful. Before we cover Rimuru's strongest form in the entire show, let's first quickly go over his digital form. After defeating the 2 true dragons, Rimuru is extremely angry and furiously marches toward the eastern nations to end them once and for all. There, he meets Rudra, the oldest of the true heroes in the world, who was once beloved by 𝐕eldonava. However, after 𝐕eldonava disappeared, Rudra constantly reincarnated until his soul became fragmented and his body was overtaken by Michael, the Lord of Justice. Michael, just like 𝐶L, is a sentient skill, but this one chose to take over its owner's body to fulfill its own goals. Now, Michael is controlled by 𝐿𝐷𝐽, the leader of the primordial angels. 𝐿𝐷𝐽's goal is to completely dominate the Tensura world in the hope that this will help him resurrect 𝐕eldonava, his creator. Rimuru is more than strong enough to beat 𝐿𝐷𝐽 and Michael at this point, but his last weakness comes back to haunt him. You see, Michael is beyond the physical laws of the universe, as he is a digital being that can freely access a special dimension where time doesn't exist. In this special dimension, Michael is infinitely faster than Rimuru, who isn't able to do anything to damage him. However, just as things start getting bad for Rimuru, Chloe from the future comes to save him, as she is also at the level of virtual beings. 𝐶L wastes no time and immediately analyzes Chloe to turn Rimuru into a digital being as well. This finally eliminates his last weakness, allowing Rimuru to easily defeat Michael. After consuming Michael, Rimuru gains access to all 14 of the angelic ultimate skills, which gives him a portion of the true authority over the Tensura universe. Rimuru also gains the authority of the last true dragon that is still alive, 𝐿𝐷𝐽. Meanwhile, 𝐿𝐷𝐽 is furious and helpless after the defeat of Michael, so he summons his final weapon against Rimuru, his best friend Milim. Milim then goes into a self-destruction mode, rampaging across the Cardinal world. While Rimuru is busy handling her, 𝐿𝐷𝐽 stacks all the time-related abilities and literally sends Rimuru to the end of time, a space where essentially nothing exists. Star Dragon King Rimuru. At the end of time, 𝐶L spends Google years analyzing everything that is there to analyze. In the end, she is finally able to teach Rimuru Nihility Collapse, a skill that was only known to 𝐕eldonava before Rimuru learned it. This allows Rimuru to access the fundamental matter of the Tensura universe, which he can use to create new universes or destroy them at will. After coming back from the end of time, Rimuru deals with Milim and 𝐿𝐷𝐽, who run away after getting destroyed by the now buffed up Diablo. Rimuru is so strong at this point that no one can stop him anymore. Well, no one except for the true creator himself, Veldanava, and his split personality, Ivaraj. Rimuru eventually ends up fighting both of these monstrous gods who can destroy the fabric of reality and write rules according to their own wills. In the end, it takes all three true dragon cores and the power of friendship for Rimuru to defeat Ivaraj, who has absorbed Veldanava to become the closest thing to a true god. After defeating her, Rimuru absorbs her core with his ultimate skill, Azatoth. This completes Rimuru's final evolution and turns him into the Star Dragon King, which makes him the sole ruler of the Tensura universe.